Chairman Fintech Network, MD Stock Exchange, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. So first of all, I would like to congratulate Fintech Network for hosting this event where both the financial sector and the tech sector have come together to analyze opportunities and find out ways where they can bring in benefit for the masses and for the country in general. So Pakistan Software Export Board is working with the tech industry to ease out the challenges that they face in the country. And we have seen a gap between the tech sector and the financial sector in the past. And if you look at the global economies, the tech sector is working very closely with the financial sector. Probably we started somewhat late, but I think the direction is right. And Pakistan Software Export Board has partnered with the stock exchange as well, where we are working with the tech companies to come on the GEM boards initially, and then on the main stock exchange as well. One key reason is that if you look at the global exchanges and like NASDAQ, S&P, most of the companies that are there now are migrating towards tech. So probably 30 to 60% of the indices are represented by the IT and tech companies. But in Pakistan, I think only 5 or 6 companies are on the main board. So there's a big gap where we need to work together. And PSEB has also signed MOUs with the Pakistani Exim Bank, Bank of Punjab, to facilitate the IT and tech companies in their helping them with the performance guarantees, getting loans. But I think a lot has to be done to facilitate this new sector in relative terms. And it's just not one entity that has to facilitate you. All the relevant stakeholders, be it State Bank, be it FBR, and other government agencies, they have to facilitate this tech sector. I would like to give you few information and points that probably you will be encountering in next maybe year or so because of my position in the Ministry of IT. And it's the key thing is the availability of data. We realize that government agencies who are holding on to data, they are not very open. So unless you have availability of data, the growth will be limited. So in order to overcome this challenge where the government agencies who are collecting a lot of citizen data but not making it available to the tech sector, to the startups, so we are working on a data governance policy. So in this data governance policy, we are defining the classification of data, and based on the classification, the government agencies have to share data with you. So there will be an open set of data. There will be some public data as well. So they will also probably attribute some monetization depending upon what the cost they have incurred to acquire the data. But you will have open data available to you where you can work on synergies, you can test your ideas, and before going to the production, you have some staging environment where you can test your products as well. So availability of the data is a key aspect that we in the Ministry of IT is working on. Another important initiative that the government has taken, and that is very important for the fintech industry, that is we have got funding from the World Bank for our project. So this project has multiple components. One key component is digital ID. So I think for the growth of this fintech, a national digital ID is the key. So we are working with NADRA to build a national digital ID. The second aspect of this project is a secure exchange layer. So this is another problem that we see, that we lack standardization when it comes to integrating different organizations. So we are working on a data exchange layer for Pakistan. And one challenge that we see, IT is a devolved subject. By devolve, I mean that after 18th Amendment, it's the IT is a provincial subject. So when we talk about digital ID or when we talk about data exchange, so all different stakeholders from the federal government and provincial government needs to be on board. So for this data exchange layer, we have all the provincial governments with us, and the key federal government institutions like NADRA, who are custodian of large data. So we are working together to have this national data exchange layer, where we will standardize and we will provide a secure exchange layer to the private and the public sector. So this will build a long-term plan for the government, where the availability of data will be made to the private sector as well. So I think availability of data and your access to data at low cost, I think will be the key for the growth of the fintech sector. One important thing that you also need to know, that there are few regulators here, but you will also be interacting with a couple of new regulators in a year or so. So one is the Data Protection Authority, and the other would be a cybersecurity board or an authority. So I think initially we talked about the data privacy. So one key shift that we are bringing in the new data privacy law is that the organization who is collecting the data is not the owner of the data. So the subject for which you have collected the data is the owner of the data. So whoever has collected the data is the data controller, and whoever is processing that data is the data processor. And the law has devised the liabilities and other responsibility for data controllers and data processors. And the law also gives a guideline for the rights of the data subject. So this is a fundamental shift that is taking place as far as the data governance is concerned. The other aspect is cybersecurity. So as we are transforming digitally more and more, the risk of data breaches and threats to the businesses are becoming more and more. So you also need to spend more, and while designing the products, you need to be more focused on the security aspects as well. What we see right now, we lack the awareness of the security, even at highest level, at organizations level, and at the product development level as well. So we in the government are bringing in different programs for the awareness and for the training and capacity building as far as the cybersecurity is concerned. But moving forward, I think it will be a key focus area for the growth of this tech sector as well. So in short, I think government and almost all government departments dealing with data, with tech, have to come forward and put their hands together to facilitate this sector, I think, which will be a key sector for economic growth of the country. And from the government of Pakistan, from Pakistan Software Export Board, I assure you that the fintech is a focus area, and we will keep working for the betterment of this sector. Thank you very much.